Fantasy realms are often defined by the otherworldly and often magical flora and fauna that fill them. Many of these tend to be borrowed by a wide variety of works, but here we will be taking a look at some of the more unique. These are my top 10 fantasy creatures. Small note here, I will not be covering any sci-fi creatures in this one. Basically, nothing that was created through scientific experimentation or was discovered on another planet will be here. That topic will get its own video. Are the Darkspawn of Thedas zombies? Zombie adjacent, maybe, but these humanoid pus bags are afflicted by the blight and are not driven to eat their victims' brains. In fact, they do not need to eat at all, given that the taint sustains them, though they have been known to eat things anyway. It also provides a regenerating effect, which provides quick healing to the afflicted. Physically, they are humanoid in shape and constantly have black ichor flowing from basically every orifice they have. They generally stay underground and fight amongst themselves unless disturbed by a blight. During this time, an archdemon commands the hordes if the Darkspawn were previously able to expose one of the old gods to the taint. If there is no archdemon, the command structure breaks down and the Darkspawn devolve into infighting. The Order of the Grey Wardens is dedicated to the eradication of all Darkspawn, and they have been instrumental in fighting back each blight. At number 9 is a probably little-known pair of leathery flappers. No, not that kind. The Leatherblocka are encountered and eventually slain by Aragon and Saphira in the third book of the Inheritance Cycle. These monsters are thought to have followed humanity to Alagasia, having survived the Razak War. Speaking of the Razak, these beasts are their parents and were ridden by their offspring for travel and to reach areas they otherwise could not. The Leatherblocka were not present in the 2006 Aragon film, given that they were actually first introduced in Eldest, but I would have been somewhat morbidly interested to see what they would have looked like since their children were so altered from the book's description of them. Regardless, these vaguely dinosaur-shaped monsters and their children served Galbatorix in exchange for being allowed to feed on its human subjects. Some have said the Leatherblocka and Razak resemble another type of flying beasts and their riders that will be discussed later on this list. Do you have any guess what it might be? Let me know down in the comments. Next, let's take a look at Skyrim's personification of Mother Nature. Spriggans have bodies made entirely of wood and are animated by magical energy which flows from their taproot, functionally similar to a heart. They are encountered generally within dense forests, but may also be found underground as well. They are fiercely protective of nature and will defend it to the death. When threatened, they attack by unleashing a magical swarm of bees or swiping at attackers within melee range. They are also capable of self-healing and invisibility, as well as enthralling nearby wildlife to aid in a fight. Spriggans can be found in many different forms, including Matron, Earth Mother, and Burnt, though the latter form was only found on the island of Solstheim. Burnt Spriggans were stronger and attacked with fire instead of having a weakness to it. They had been left burnt and scarred after the eruption of Red Mountain. It would be cool if non-hostile Spriggans could be encountered, at least in my opinion. Seems like they should be more docile unless someone, like the Hagravens that sacrifice them, present a direct threat, but maybe that's just me. The Plague Maiden, sometimes referred to as a Pesta, is a type of specter that resides in areas beset by plague. It takes the form of an afflicted woman with rotting flesh and is trailed by rats. There is some debate whether the plague is brought with the maiden or if she is drawn to it. It is also theorized that a Pesta arrives from the powerful emotional charge around certain circumstances of death, in this case due to a death caused by a brutal illness. In combat, it can switch between ethereal and solid form to avoid incoming attacks and dish out damage. Now at number 6, here's another type of undead. Well, kinda. Night creatures are the product of reanimation, but they are more than simply walking corpses. Humans, known as Forge Masters, are capable of inserting demons or foreign souls into a body through the use of a magical tool. This process allows the Forge Master to create new life and shape it as they please. They could simply restore the body to its original form, at least as much as possible unless there are pieces missing, or they could make it take a completely new form. Regardless, the newly created being would have an entirely new identity separate from the body's original owner, and would always be loyal to the Forge Master who created it. Night creatures were originally seen in the Castlevania series as part of Dracula's war on humanity. These night creatures were created by Hector and Isaac, two humans loyal to the Vampire Lord. After Dracula's death, Hector was taken to Styria by Carmilla, where he would be coerced into creating a new army. Isaac was saved by Dracula and vowed to continue his work, slaughtering entire towns to add to his army. Eventually, he made it to Styria, where he took revenge on Carmilla and settled as the new king, letting humanity retain its place in the world. Heading into the top 5, we have the Wardens from the Darksiders franchise. Technically, any of the Maker's constructs could be here, but the Wardens are my favorite. Also known as Tormented Gates depending on which game you're playing, these constructs are powered by Heartstones which contain the soul of a dead Maker. They were supposed to be the Maker's toll paid in the End War and were prematurely summoned to Earth from the Forge Lands after the first 6 seals were broken. In the aftermath of Hell's victory, the Wardens were enslaved by the Destroyer and forced to act as living gates in perpetual slumber. They were encountered fairly regularly in the first Darksiders, where War could awaken and release them using the Earthcaller horn. When sleeping, they sat in a kneeling position with their arms raised to form 2 halves of a gate, hence the name Tormented Gate. After they were awakened, they would thank War for freeing them and trudge off to places unknown. The Wardens are also the only constructs known to be immune to corruption. Next, at number 4, we have the Fell Beasts of Middle-earth. These flying mounts of the Nazgul were native to Mordor and could be more accurately called Black Wings. There have been many interpretations of these creatures over the years, but a few things have been consistent throughout. They were covered in smooth black skin with no scales, fur, or feathers. Also, they made a dreadful screech and were accompanied by a terrible stench. After the Nazgul's horses were washed away down the river, by either Elrond or Arwen depending on if you're reading the book or watching the movie, they began traveling on the Black Wings and would later ride them into battle. During the Battle of Pelennor Fields, the Black Wing belonging to the Witch King of Angmar was killed by Éowyn with its master shortly following. Interestingly, the term Fell Beast was never actually used by Tolkien. He referred to them as fell, which was a Middle English adjective meaning cruel or dreadful. Let's finally talk about a creature that doesn't want to kill basically everything it sees. Lion turtles have been around since the beginning of the world of Avatar and previously served to protect humanity from the dangers of the spirit wilds. They were large enough to hold cities on their backs, and each was gifted in one of the 4 elements. Humans could be gifted power over a lion turtle's element through the use of energy bending, though certain individuals, like the fire lion turtle, required the element to be given back to re-enter the city. Over the millennia, after Vatu's imprisonment and the beginning of the Age of the Avatar, lion turtles would be hunted nearly to extinction. By the time we are introduced to Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender, only one remains, which travels the world in solitude away from humanity. This lion turtle is the being who taught Aang the art of energy bending, giving him another option to end the war besides killing Ozai. Lion turtles also contributed to the creation of the Avatar by giving each element to Rava to hold it until it had been mastered.
You found death.
I originally had this one down as just the Kraken, but that is a pretty common mythical creature, both in other works and in real life. Instead, let's focus on Fishface and the Fishettes.
Oi, Fishface!
Davy Jones is of course captain of the Flying Dutchman. Not Frying Dutchman.
Set sail for the Frying Dutchman.
I said flying, not frying.
And you're like, what? That's the same joke twice.
Davy Jones was the ruler of the 7 seas and master of the Kraken. He was originally charged by his lover Calypso, goddess of the sea, to ferry those who had died on the water to the other side. This task was to be done for a period of 10 years at a time, during which Jones would be unable to set foot on land, but after the 10 years was over, he would be granted 1 day to spend with Calypso. After his first 10 years, Jones was forsaken by Calypso due to her cruel and constantly shifting nature. His rage at this betrayal led him to conspire with the pirate lords to bind Calypso into human form and terrorize the seas, pressing unlucky sailors into his service. Jones and his crew became twisted, developing physical traits of all manner of sea creatures. The crew would also eventually become a physical part of the ship as well, forever serving their cruel master. Not that anyone really watched Dead Men Tell No Tales, but a post-credit scene showed a somehow resurrected Jones looming over Will and Elizabeth Turner. He disappeared with a flash of lightning, but barnacles left on the floor remained as proof of his presence. And finally at number 1 we have Aslan, because well, he's the king. I mean really, what could be better than a magical lion voiced by Liam Neeson? C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia details the story of the eponymous land from creation to destruction, with Aslan present at important points along the way. He was most directly involved in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which should use the Oxford comma, but I digress. This story showed the Great Lion in all his glory as he and the Pevensey children defeated Jadis, the White Witch, and freed Narnia from the Century of Winter. Aslan's character has often been compared to Jesus Christ in Christian theology, but Lewis himself stated on multiple occasions that he was intended to be an incarnation of Christ himself. This deity created the world of Narnia and ended it after its predetermined lifespan, leading its inhabitants into the afterlife known as Aslan's country. He was the son of the Emperor over the Sea, who wrote the laws of the deep magic and deeper magic, referenced by Aslan and Jadis when bargaining for Edmund's life.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
A couple of bonuses for you. Trico is a large chimera-like creature that follows and defends the boy in The Last Guardian. It resembles a combination between a dog, bird, and cat, and was previously enslaved to the Master of the Valley. Fortunately, the Master's hold over Trico was broken after it was hit by lightning, and it was able to escape with help from the boy and deliver him back to his home. Funny enough, this last one is actually from another of Team Ico's iconic games. The Colossi from Shadow of the Colossus are 16 giant creatures hunted by Wander in an attempt to resurrect Mono. Unfortunately, he learns way too late that the Colossi actually were not a threat and were simply guarding pieces of Dorman's energy to keep him sealed away. Let me know if you have any differing opinions or if I missed any magnificent fantasy creatures. Just don't start a fight in my comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed and join the family if you want to see more nerdy shit. Remember, love recklessly. Start with yourself.